And there is something about when you witness wildfire firsthand, it does something to you. And, you know, the guys, the actual firefighters, they call it the fire bug. There's something when you witness it, it taps into something primal. And man, I caught it.
913, this is Tower.
Never quit. Never quit radio.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the TNQ podcast. I'm your host, Marcus Luttrell. Every week, it's my job to fire you up, to ignite the legend inside of you, and to push you to your greatness. Join me every week as I take you into my briefing room with some of the most hard-charging people on the planet. They're going to show you how to embrace the suck of life, teach you the values of working your ass off, and charge through whatever life throws at you. This is the Team Never Quit podcast. So buckle up, Buttercup.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Team Never Quit podcast. As always, thank you guys for listening and watching, and please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button wherever you get the show. So today, before we get to our two special guests, let's kick it off with our weekly Patreon question. And this week may be a little biased, but we've got, what is your favorite firefighter movie or TV show?
That's not fair.
That's not fair.
Well, we know the answer to that.
Yeah. Obviously, it's Hotshot, but number two would be Backdraft.
Yeah,
Backdraft, right?
Backdraft is...
Has to be.
I mean, we were talking about Kurt Russell. I mean, there's nobody better.
That whole movie's stacked full of them guys.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, De Niro's good.
Yeah, De Niro's great.
Back when De Niro was good.
Donald Sutherland.
Dude, Shadow.
I mean, we're talking, like, again, this is the golden age of movies. Back when they just made good art and there wasn't any agenda. It was just good, high quality.
And they
popcorn.
captured that whole, what it's like to live in that community. And Backdraft. For sure. I remember I started wearing firefighter shirts and I wasn't a fireman.
100%. And the other part of it is just that addiction to fire.
Yeah.
They captured that really well. How there is a weird pull to it that everybody's sort of drawn to.
Real life movie.
100%.
Freaking great.
Yeah.
Are there any other ones?
Well, of course, there's Chicago Fire, the television show. Shameless plug. Sorry, I had to do it.
Oh, you say TV and movies?
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Marcus thought we were just doing movies.
I'm sorry, I thought we were just doing movies.
No, we're just doing movies.
Yeah,
Phil's just trying to plug the show that he's on.
Shameless plug. Yeah, exactly.
That's great.
But
It's doing really well.
Yeah. Only the Brave was a movie that it was, the only other movie that's made about hot shots.
Yeah.
And so that was good.
That one's about Brandon, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Brandon.
Yeah, Miles Teller played him.
Yeah.
Man, he got me racking my brain now for other.
Yeah, what are the other great fire movies? I'm trying to think. Well, okay, here's one. This is a deep. Gabe, I think you'll know this one.
Yeah, I probably know this one.
You're a film guy. I think it's called. Is it called Inferno or Towering Inferno? And it stars Paul Newman and Steve McQueen. That's a fire movie.
Yep.
Pretty great one. Pretty classic one.
Yeah.
That's older, right?
Yeah.
Did they redo that?
Yeah.
I'm looking it up. There's Fighting the Fire.
I'm gonna watch that when y'all leave.
As well you should.
I hadn't seen it in a minute, but
it's a great film.
I keep running the scenes in my head, man.
Backdraft.
Backdraft, yeah. Billy, with Billy and freaking all of them.
Yeah.
I hear they're doing a sequel.
Oh, they'll mess it up.
Oh, of course they will. They always do. But
just don't put De Niro in it.
No, I think they have Glenn Powell.
He's on fire.
He's on.
No pun intended.
Dude,
but that freaking guy.
And he's the king of remakes.
He's good,
right? So
he's real good. Actually,
he's great. He's in Top Gun, Twisters, and now Backdraft too.
You see that Super Bowl commercial with him?
Oh yeah, it was so good.
It was on point.
It was so good.
It was
I love that guy. I think that dude's great.
I laughed out loud, dude. When they had that dragon in that barbecue pit and he was driving down the road, I was like, "It was badass right there." That freaking guy got my vote.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's the next. He's our next star, right? He's already a star, but yeah,
it's that jawline.
That's that jawline.
Oh,
100%.
Yeah,
freaking helps. He could probably redo Fight Club and get away with it.
Oh, easy.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is our first time to ever do a podcast with someone on Zoom and someone in person. So you're going to have to bear with us for some technical things that we're figuring out.
Well, let's start about how did you get into the business?
Well, I just became an independent filmmaker, just doing commercials, music festivals. Then I actually met Phil shooting a baseball movie where Phil was the star of it and I was the DP. But in terms of getting into wildfire, at one point I was dating a wildland firefighter, a female.
A woman.
Which is extremely rare. And, I was living out in Santa Clarita, which is outside of LA. And I had this gigantic fire pop off just down the street from my house, talking like 100 meters away. And it ended up burning up 50 homes. It was a massive catastrophe. And I remember seeing it up close for the first time. And I was totally blown away. It was like a Hieronymus Bosch painting come to life. And there is something about when you witness wildfire firsthand, it does something to you. And, the guys, the actual firefighters, they call it the fire bug. There's something when you witness it, it taps into something primal. And man, I caught it. And I'm looking at this intense landscape thinking, I have to get in there. And so I first tried to get in with the feds by asking permission, like, hey, can I come and film these hotshot crews? And they said, absolutely not. Go screw yourself. And then fortunately for me in California, they have very liberal press laws where if you have a media badge, you're given unfettered access to any fire and you can go wherever you want. It's basically you're on your own. Take care of yourself. You can go anywhere you want. So I just took my press badge, grabbed a couple of cameras, and I just went to every single fire in California for about 6 straight years.
Is that the rule there? If you got that press pass, you can take care of yourself. Get in there?
That's why it's such a circus. That's why it's an absolute circus out there, because basically any blogger with a laminated card can just flash that to the sheriff's deputies and they just wave them right in.
So is there a school you have to go to get that thing?
Not at all. Now, I did all of that. So I did all the same training that the firefighters do. I did S190, S290. I did Hell Week with the guys. I did the 80-hour refresher course. I had all the appropriate PPE. I actually studied this stuff just for my own situational awareness. But the reality is you don't have to do any of that. You don't even have to have any PPE. You can just, I've seen guys go in there with shorts and sandals. It's an absolute joke. And they're starting to create a hazard. And they created a big hazard.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah, on the Palisades fire, it was a big problem. And so they ended up having to kick out everybody.
Yeah, determination's one thing, but when you get in, and it's usually when you run into people who are trained, that's the problem, right?
Well, the thing is, there's some people who do it right. They have a fire shelter, they wear all the PPE, they actually know what they're doing, they've taken classes. Most of the photojournalists who actually do this right are former firefighters.
Yeah, check.
And so they actually have that certification and they're good to go. But for the most part, the kinds of people who are reporting for the Washington Post and the New York Times, they have no clue. And this actually cascades into their reporting too. This is why the reporting on wildfire in the mainstream press is so disconnected from the reality, because they're not actually getting in there and understanding it. They're not spending time with the firefighters and understanding their world. They're just doing it from the streets where the homes are burning, and then they inject their narrative into it. And they're there to tell a story, not the story.
This is actually an outside opinion.
100%.
Phil, how'd you get into this?
The simple answer is Gabe asked me to. And, anything that Gabe asked me to be involved in, I just say yes. Because, because Gabe is, and, I'm not just saying this, he's quite a talented filmmaker. And so, how I got into the business, started as an actor in Chicago, doing theater. Had my own company, did Steppenwolf, Goodman Theater, all that in Chicago. And then started doing TV and film, and so was wooed by Hollywood, and went out to LA where I am now, and I started producing and writing my own stuff. So I made this 15-minute short film. I financed it myself, wrote it, directed it, started it, and went to Sundance. So that kind of kicked off this other part of my career that I knew I just did, and I love acting, but I knew that wasn't going to be it for me. I'm a storyteller. So however I'm doing it, whether I'm an actor, whether I'm producing something, writing it, I just want to tell good stories. So, when Gabe first asked me, of course, I go, what do you want me for, man? I don't know anything about fire or any, but I learned. And I went out with him. I mean, he was already ahead of me by a few years, but by the time I hopped on board the project and we were going out, there was still a couple more years of fires that we did together, which was really great for me as a producer. I was right there with Gabe. I mean, we would, I'd be sleeping over at his house and we would just wait for calls and we would roll out at weird hours. And when we weren't doing that, we'd be like kicking back, drinking whiskey, cutting the film. So it was a really kind of a cool process. And, Gabe is far more educated and I also, by the way, I trained as well. I did the hikes and I did all that as well. Gabe's way more educated on all the fire stuff. I was more the guy who helped him shape the story because it was like hundreds of hours of footage. And, we wanted to make a film that played like a narrative feature. So as you probably noticed from watching it, there's no talking heads. Like a typical doc, you've got, you cut to interviews. We didn't want to do that. We wanted it to, play like you're watching something that could be a piece of fiction. Like a Terrence Malick film, like Thin Red Line or something like that. So that's a little bit of it right there.
Well, you don't have any shortage of sets out there either. I mean, it seems like it's always burning out there.
It's always burning, and it's never going to stop. This is the thing that I have to remind people. And in our movie Hotshot, there is a bit of a foreboding warning of exactly what we just saw in the Palisades and in Altadena in California this last month. It ain't going to stop because they're so distracted with the climate change narrative, which really has nothing to do with the wildfires. It's the accumulation of fuels. We've gotten so good at putting out these fires, and they're so aggressive at putting it out. They've been doing it for 100 years. You've got these areas that are meant to burn every 8 to 10 years that haven't burned in 80 to 100 years. So it's just like stacking gunpowder.
You're from there.
I was
you
born
grew up there, and that's your backstory, right?
Born and raised in Los Angeles. I would always joke on set that when everyone's asking where you're from, I'm the only dude in LA who's actually from LA.
The actual angel was born in the city of angels, right? Everyone else is kind of a transplant. It's tough.
It's tough.
When you show up to the gates of the city of angels, man, you'd think it'd be it's paradise, but it's tough to live in there.
It's tough, and it's getting tougher. It's getting much, much tougher. And frankly, I had to bail out. I left in 2021. Like a lot of the refugees from California, I fled to Nashville, Tennessee. And part of the reason why is because they're not going to fix this wildfire problem there. They keep enduring the same lesson. I say enduring instead of learning. They ain't learning their lesson. So they continue to blame climate change when they could just take a chainsaw in their backyard and get rid of the brush, and they wouldn't have to deal with this. And the thing that I've been pointing out to, my family is from the Palisades. My aunt lost everything. My cousins lost everything. My uncle lost half of his home. So it was pretty devastating. But I've been warning people for years. When you look around the brush around that neighborhood, it is like a rat's nest. We're talking like 12-foot tall chaparral growing right up against these homes. They don't stand a chance. The thing is, you have to get rid of that stuff because it is going to burn. It's inevitable. California's fire country. Basically, everywhere from the Rockies on west is fire country. And so if it's not burning, it's going to eventually. And our inability to accept the inevitability of it means you're going to keep seeing that history repeat itself. And I don't see him fixing it anytime soon because when you watch Governor Newsom talk about it, he's still talking about climate change. And when you continue to put it on something that we don't have control over, like the weather, that's a completely disempowering narrative. And that means you're removing agency over our ability to stop this. It's totally stoppable. It's pretty frustrating watching it happen.
Well, where's the breakdown?
It's a combination of things. Number one, there's this political ideology, this dogma where people are so fixated on climate. Look, I was the typical barefoot hippie liberal California guy. And so I was a huge climate change activist. And when I first got into wildfire back in 2015, I fully expected that everything I was going to learn from these guys would just validate my perception of, the climate and wildfire cycle. It actually ended up being the exact opposite. So the first fire that I went to, the first big one, it was in Yosemite. And I was lucky enough to have a dude who had been on the forest for 30 years. He just grabbed me. He's like, hey, come take a walk with me. He was running a division on this fire, and he was pretty quiet. So he gave me this whole history lesson about the Yosemite Valley and the Miwok Indians who used to live there. And they would burn out the Yosemite Valley ritualistically every single year. And he said, the old adage here in the park is that you used to be able to ride a horse at full gallop straight through the forest. Now look at it. And you look out into the forest, you can't even see 10 feet into it. It's so overgrown. And it's like you have all this extra foliage that's competing.
The underbrush.
For the same resources. And so they're all dying, right? Because they're all fighting for the same amount of water, which is pretty scarce from time to time in California. And he's like, it's all dead. It has to go. So it's inevitable that this is going to happen. Once that broke that bubble, for me, I couldn't unsee it. It's like taking the red pill in the Matrix.
Oh, yeah.
You realize, this climate narrative is a lie. But you talk to the average Californian, you talk to the average New York Times reader or the WAPO reader, they have a completely different perception. And you see it constantly.
Gabe, per that, I mean, it's just a quick little tangent on that. We pitched, because of course, we put this doc out independently ourselves. So, we are the, marketing department. So I pitched the LA Times. I was like, you really need to watch our doc. And I got a hold of like one of the editors over there, wrote him an email. It was like, here's the doc and sent him the EPK and a bunch on it. And they literally said, no, thanks. And 1 week later, I think it was on the front page of the LA Times, Gabe. It was a big thing about climate change. And if we don't wake up to that, the state's going to burn to the ground. And I went, oh my God. I mean, it's just like just the misinformation is, I mean, it's unfortunate.
Yeah, and the thing is, these things aren't mutually exclusive. So if you are really concerned about climate, that's totally fine. The thing is, you ain't going to change the weather.
You don't have that power.
You don't have that power. So a wildfire is composed of three things. It's called the fire triangle. You need all three. Just like with a tripod, if you get rid of one leg, the whole thing collapses. Drought, fuels, and ignition, right? So sparks, the fuels are the vegetation. Drought is summer. You get that every year, right?
That's the way it is.
100%.
They understand the difference between cleaning out the underbrush so that the forest can grow.
Well, this is the lesson that's in our film. So in Hotshot, we go over the problem with the ladder fuels. It's that when you get this accumulation of the underbrush, it then generates enough heat that it can take out the big fuels. People were crying over all these giant redwoods and sequoias that were getting burned down back in 2020. And nobody ever asked the very obvious question. If these trees are 2,000 years old, but the fire cycle in that forest is once every 300 years, you get a purging wildfire. How did they get to be 2,000 years old? What happened 2,000 years ago that made these trees so robust? And it's the Native Americans who lived there who started burning it off every single year, getting rid of that underbrush. So those are man-made trees. Correct. Trees aren't meant to live for 2,000 years. Those lived because men were cultivating that garden. They were good stewards of the land. And that's the only way. You get rid of that competition, you get rid of that fuel competition, and then all of a sudden you get that tremendous growth.
That's why humans are put here, maintain the land.
We're supposed to be stewards.
Is there any part of that foliage that's not native to that area?
Well, there's plenty. And the thing is, you get more invasive plants with these burn cycles because we're destroying these old growth trees because we simply let too many people into the party.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And so now it's irreparable.
Some people don't get along.
100%.
Some people are stronger than the other ones, and even if they're still having a good time, you can have such a good time that the other ones won't.
100% true.
So are y'all both working on policy change now? Are you actually trying to change legislature?
Yes.
I mean, I know that you're doing it through the film, but are you becoming activist as well?
Yes. So the film, we actually screened this film privately for Senator Romney and some congressmen from Utah, as well as the chiefs in the Forest Service. And Senator Romney actually did come out with some legislation, but with his retirement, it sort of filtered through the cracks. But one emergence that we've seen recently is the election of Tim Sheehy, who is a former Navy SEAL. He became a fire aviator. He started a fire aviation company in Montana.
Great dude. He's a red-carded wildland firefighter. He's the first wildland firefighter to serve in Congress. He's an original Sheehy.
I know. He had this great joke on Capitol Hill earlier.
I'll tell you the same thing.
I know. I don't have the guts to check, but I had to
proof right now.
I know. If he made it through Buds, he's probably got a pair. But he's done something that we've been calling for a long time, and nobody's really listened, which is to create Fed Fire. to create a unified wildland firefighting agency, and he's put up a bill with Senator Padilla to stand up a new agency that would be the Federal Wildland Firefighting Agency.
Do you think that would be a great job for people? I mean, a new outlet for people to actually take care of this place, know what they're doing, and then systematically, because it's federal government, go to each state and either teach or take care of that?
I think that would be the coolest job. And that's the thing. When you watch this
badass
film,
job, actually.
dude, it is the most badass job. I mean, and think about it. You're getting exercise, radical exposure to nature. You're getting that catharsis of shared struggle with your crewmates. And you get to see, I mean, there's nothing more like primitive and connected to ancient humanity like sitting around a campfire and just shooting.
Sure. And when you talk about federal, that pulls from all of the states, which means you're taking one guy from each walk of life in all these states and throwing us into one pool, which means we learn how to swim together. And learn how to talk with each other and understand our thought processes and like, hey, why do you see it like that? And then when you're working together in a situation where you're always going to die, you open up a little bit more to your boys.
100%. And, you know, the original Hotshots were actually Zuni Indians. So the original Hotshot crews in Los Angeles, they were formed up by Zuni Indians from New Mexico who got flown in, teamed up with a bunch of Vietnam veterans, and they formed like some of the original crews. Actually, before that, it was Korean War veterans. And so there is a legacy of stewardship out west that's sort of been abandoned, and because of that, the fires are getting worse. But, you know, the ancient traditions of getting rid of fuels and being good stewards of the land, they need to come back. And, you know, fortunately, Senator Sheehy understands this, and I think he's going to make a positive impact. But the thing is, the reason why people ain't getting into this job is because of the way the Forest Service has been abusing their employees. They're paying them $17 an hour. That's less than a McDonald's employee in California. And the reality is they're hemorrhaging all their studs because they just can't make ends meet. It's fine if you're in your 20s, like your early 20s. You want to care. Yeah, you go out to the forest, you're single, you don't have kids, you could go sleep at the barracks or sleep out of your car, no big deal.
Out there.
We have a hot shot.
That's how you get that badass reputation.
I know.
And when you're young like that, that's what you're after.
And Hotshots, what's unique about Hotshots is they got to be able to fight fire independently, completely without any resupply or anything for 3 straight days. So they're a lot like, they're like, look, it's an imperfect analogy, but Hotshots are like the Navy SEALs of wildland fire.
LRPs, long range reconnaissance boys.
100%.
Freaking ass hung out there, and that's the job.
And the Swiss Army knife. Like you can kind of do it. You can do everything. So no matter where you get tossed, like, all right, we'll take a boat and we'll go out there. We'll hike up there. You'll helicopter us in. We can handle dozers. We can cut down trees. We can do firing operations. We can guide in aircraft. We can do everything. And that's why it's so hard to form a hotshot crew, to get all that expertise. They got to be able to go out there for 3 straight days, no water, no food, no resupply of anything, and be totally self-sufficient. The thing is, when you bring in a hotshot crew to a wildland fire, they immediately stabilize the incident because they can run everything, and they bring that experience and that gravitas from all those man hours fighting fire. But the thing is, dude, how long can you do that? And you try to...
it's a short life.
You get to that point in your 30s where, all right, I'm ready to get married and have kids. I can't afford to have kids if I'm making $17 an hour. And the thing about the Forest Service, they don't even classify them as firefighters.
Yeah.
They call them forestry technicians. That would be like calling you an ocean technician. And they don't get the same benefits that firefighters in CAL FIRE or municipal agencies get. Yep. So they have this high level of attrition where they're losing all the veteran dudes who keep the younger guys alive. Yep. And we're seeing more and more fatalities and close calls because now they got to rely on just those 22-year-olds who are willing to do it.
There's a show called Rogue Heroes about the SAS when they stood those jokers up. And the Texas Rangers, like there's one old dude. If you live to be old in this community, you're a badass. We'll got a spot for you. The rest of you jokers, we're going to flip your pay scale. We're going to double it and then give you all the like reward them.
Yeah.
Like those young guys will do that for rewards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're right when it comes time for the family unit, American. Like when I want you to go back and be a normal freaking American, which is hard for those guys.
Yeah.
Like when you let them back into the public, you have to have that rowdy mindset. Like I don't give a damn. And that doesn't play well when you're running around our normal people. And that is a rub, and I don't know how you get around that.
It's hard, and look, the depression and alcoholism and suicide rates in the firefighter community are pretty severe. And there's a lot of veterans. So there were a bunch of Marines and former Navy guys on some of these crews. So there is a lot of similarities there.
Sure.
And you see a lot of the same levels of depression and suicide. I don't think it's quite as severe, but it's pretty high. And I think there is that adrenaline spike of you go out, you grind yourself to the bone, you face death every single day, and then the season ends, the rains come, and then you have to go home and just, you got to be a dad, you got to be normal, and it doesn't feel right. You're separated from your fellows that you just spent all year bonding with.
Yeah.
A lot of people have a hard time coping with that drop off. The thing is, with the pay, these guys are really good at taking abuse. And there is something in them. I don't have this gene, but I observed this. There's some people who have this gene that compels them to serve their country. And
Service heart.
It's, dude, and it is like a pathology. And they will continue to abuse themselves just to do that. But at a certain point, man, you got to be able to pay your rent. You got to be able to take care of your kids. And so these guys end up going to CAL FIRE, going to other agencies, and then we lose these dudes that we've spent, as taxpayers, we spent millions of dollars training them up over the years. And then we go back to square one with a new recruit.
Back to the question on activism, it's like the Hotshots, their weapons are, they're digging out, line and hiking in, and ours is the camera. So it's like everyone who has seen this film, they walk away and they go, "Oh my God, I didn't know any of this," and they immediately become activists almost because of the film. And they're like, "What can I do? I want to, do something and help." And so we would love nothing more than to give this film, a screening for everyone in Washington, because a lot of these politicians, they don't know. Mm-hmm. They don't know what the fuck's going on. I mean, they go to their, they're in their office all day, and then, they're over in Capitol Hill, and then they're back in their office, and then they're in a bar and they're having dinner. And it's like, I think when, if we can get some, people in Washington to see this film, I think we could, this could help make change, which is why we made the movie in the first place.
Well, the activists that you're running up against, they've seen a movie. That's what turned them into that. They just saw the wrong one.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, their hearts are in the right place. Have you ever seen anybody like that? Like, hey, man, you're doing the right thing for the wrong reason, and and you can see it in their eyes. That's why you don't have to talk down to them, especially our bleeding hearts, our liberals. Man, they're truly trying to do the right thing.
Yep.
They're they're on the wrong side.
You show them what it really is to fight for something and fight for the right thing. You don't ever have to yell at them. They'll beat themselves up about that, and then the way they'll try and fix that is bust their ass trying to do the right thing.
And that's why I said earlier that these things aren't mutually exclusive. You don't have to abandon any of your ideologies to understand how we fix this problem.
Right.
The thing that I always point out to people is that we have agency over wildfire. We can be proactive. We can solve it tomorrow if we know what we're supposed to do. And if you look at what a hotshot crew does, literally the only thing they do is get rid of plants. They're either cutting them or burning them, and that's it. They don't do anything else. They don't use water, and that's part of what makes them so badass is they go and fight wildfires without water. The thing is, there's a culture. It's a lot like Fight Club. They cherish this sort of time-honored tradition of just being the quiet warriors out in the middle of nowhere, and there is an honor to being unseen and unheard. But the problem is, if you're getting beat to hell, who's telling your story?
Yeah.
And the thing is, they hate the media. They never, if you end up on the news, you got to buy your crew beers.
Yeah.
So they punish you if you're ever on the news. And that was something that we had to deal with in terms of how do we tell this story? Because look, it's not my story to tell, but no one's telling it. And the other side of this is, if it's not in their nature to speak to the camera, then we can't have them on camera giving interviews. It doesn't feel right. And these guys are going to get clowned on. There was a Netflix series called Fire Chasers. And when I first started going out and filming fires, every time I showed up with the camera, guys would be like, "Hey, you ain't filming fire chases, are you?" Because they had some guys from LA County talking about their job and talking about how cool it was. And the thing is, there is no way for you as a firefighter to say how cool your job is without sounding like a douchebag.
Yeah.
And they became the laughing stock of the entire wildfire community. And so I decided very early on, I ain't doing it to these guys. And so we chose to tell the story from almost like a nature documentary point of view, where it's like Morgan Freeman talking about penguins.
Yeah.
And we're observing these wild animals.
That dude can talk about anything.
Exactly.
And you're going to listen. I tell you, you know what makes them like that? The fire. The fire doesn't talk. and they can't talk to the fire. You can yell at it all you want, but it doesn't talk back. Matter of fact, the more you yell at it, the more it burns your oxygen. So it makes them into that.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of back to your point, Marcus, about it being an education thing, because fire don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican. It doesn't care about your race or your religion or what, I mean, it's an equal opportunity destroyer.
Just wants to feed.
And all these hotshots, all these guys who work together, I mean, they're just they're the same, they're not getting down in the weeds over, politics, which is what is unfortunately happening in California. This whole wildfire thing is being politicized. Meanwhile, you've got Altadena and the Pacific Palisades burnt to the ground, and that should never have happened.
Never.
It should never have happened. That could have been avoided. I mean, you can't avoid Mother Nature, but what the devastation that happened, 1,000% could have been avoided.
Well, I think that's what's coming out of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that place, when that got hit, that's when everyone was like, all right, there's certain places down here that when they get hit, something gets done.
Look, man, I want to believe that, but what I caution everybody is back in 2018, we had the campfire roll through Paradise and killed 85 people.
I remember that.
And we all thought, oh, dude, we got to change. Nothing changed. And that on the exact same day, another fire ripped through Malibu, the other portion that hadn't burned this time. The Woolsey fire killed 3 people, burned up over 1,000 homes. Nothing changed. And so, look, this stubbornness is like really hardwired. So we're dealing with this perpetual narrative that's like a tick. They cannot write an article without blaming it on climate change, right? So every single article about wildfires due to climate change. And so we're ignoring the practical steps that we can take to change this. So in our film, I got so lucky to stumble upon this one fire that happened to serve as a perfect example of how to do it right. So it was almost a carbon copy of the Palisades fire in Orange County. So you had 85 mile per hour winds pushing this fire. It's a late season fire ripping towards this community, but they had a 300-foot green belt of mulch and succulents surrounding the entire neighborhood. So when the fire ran into that, it just died. The firefighters didn't even have to pull out their hoses. Wow. And a few embers landed in some, palm trees throughout the neighborhood, but you take care of that real quick. That would have happened just the same in the Palisades. But like I said, they've got 12-foot brush growing right up against their homes. And there's footage of that fire before it impacted the edge of the Palisades, where it was maybe like 50 feet out. The homes still weren't on fire. So imagine if you had a 100-foot fuel break, fire stops right there. Nothing happens. You might get a few homes catch on fire because of embers, but I'm telling you, I've seen it in person. 85 mile per hour winds pushing a fire, and it just stopped dead in its tracks. So the solutions exist, and some communities, like in Orange County, are doing it right. But some people, they just refuse to ignore it. And it's the lack of education. People just don't know. So in the same way, they don't understand how the fuels contribute to the fire. They don't understand what hotshots do. They don't even know, like they think they slide down poles like in Ghostbusters, And so there's this profound epiphany that happens when people watch the film where they're like, I had no idea any of this existed. There's a lot of great, cultural literature and films about Navy SEALs. And, obviously it's surface level stuff, but there's a general understanding of what those quiet warriors do to protect us. But there is zero understanding of what our wildland firefighters do. And we were hoping to change that with this film. When we initially took it to Netflix, they were interested. It got all the way to the top. They wanted us to change it. They wanted us to recut the film because we gloss over the climate thing. We don't even get into it. We just gloss over it. And because we didn't sufficiently mess our drawers about climate, they wanted us to make it more panicky about climate change. Oh. And we refused to do that.
It woke.
So
they wanted it woke, fired up.
It's not if you're talking about it, it's one thing. Even if you don't talk about it,
that's the thing.
They still blame you?
If you aren't sufficiently lighting your hair on fire over it, like even Ron Howard, who directed Backdraft, by the way, he had a documentary about the fire in Paradise. And I remember he got raked over the coals because he didn't spend enough time talking about climate change.
By who? Who's doing this?
LA Times, Washington Post, all the legacy media, the same characters who sort of shape the general narrative in the public.
So why don't you take the movie to all of the woke universities and show the movie to the students that the big media gets to be the loud noise.
Well, I'd love to do that, but I will tell you, there's a line about 8 minutes into the film where we're talking about the difference between male and female firefighters and how the gals have to work about 3 times harder just to be able to keep up with the fellas. And there's a line where we say, this is real life, not a gender studies class. And I guarantee
But that's good. They need to hear that. They need to see. I feel like movies show, your film shows real life. And sometimes they just need to see it.
Look, I would love for that to be true, but the experience that we've had is when we take it to these places like Netflix and HBO, they had very similar reactions. Even some of the film festivals, they get very triggered by that reality check. And some people just aren't ready to hear it. And what's frustrating is that they will shut out the entire lesson behind that just because they get triggered by some of the language. And it goes to that refusal to accept that, dude, we're all different. We all play our role. Like, we need the bleeding hearts to sort of keep us in check from getting too hyper aggressive.
They serve a purpose. They keep the athletes in check.
100%.
We talked about that.
Yeah.
And you got the spiritual people. They keep there is a duality here. I mean, we watch out for each other.
Yeah.
You talk about diversity. We were talking about that earlier. That's what America is. We're not Germany, Japan. We're all of that mixed into one. The minute you try to diversify us instead of unify us, we can get pissed. I mean, Americans can do that quick. We all love to fight.
Yeah.
That's what we do here. All right?
Yeah, right.
So you don't teach them to, I mean, you definitely don't want to open that door and let us just do that all the time, man. That just pisses people off. Especially when people who don't hold physical power try to implement their will over us.
That's the most dangerous part.
That's extremely dangerous.
Yeah.
And when that's which it's happening.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is the powder keg, and that's how you light it.
This is the Revenge of the Nerds in real
100%.
life. That's why I keep saying we got to make a movie. We got to do Revenge of the Jocks.
Yeah.
We got to balance out.
We got to balance some stuff out here,
I know.
guys. I mean, that's what we're looking for here is that equilibrium,
Yeah.
that homeostasis of balance, so we can all live together in harmony.
Yeah.
Well, we would love to show this at universities. And, I will say this, anyone who hears this podcast, that wants us to screen the film, we would be happy to. Just hit us up. We'll be there in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. So when you're talking to you're in the business, you're in the industry, you grew up in the City of Angels. When y'all are around all the actors and everybody, and y'all are talking about this stuff, do they even listen? I mean, can y'all talk to each other about this, or is it just?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think like all of my friends who are showrunners, writers, directors, famous actors, they all love this movie.
Yep.
The problem is the executives.
Yep.
It's the gatekeepers, and they think they know what everybody wants to see, which is simply their purview, and that's it. And it's not true. LA's a bubble. Manhattan, Chicago. These are like little tiny bubbles, and then you have Middle America, which is basically the rest of which is the country, basically. Yeah. And it's like it's just so hard. It's like it's these people in charge, and they want to control this particular narrative that Hollywood has. I mean, you're seeing the fiasco that's happening now with this movie Amelia Perez or whatever it's called. I mean, this is just an utter. This is the joke of all jokes in Hollywood. It's like Hollywood worked so hard to finally make this movie about. Have you guys heard about this movie?
No.
Okay, Amelia Perez. It's nominated for all of these Oscar awards, and it's the first time because it's about a cartel. I'm butchering it. It looks terrible, by the way, but that's besides the point. But it's like about a cartel guy who becomes a woman. So it's like they got this transgender actor to play the part, and they nominated the film for like 13 Oscars. But then they dug through this person's tweet from years ago, and now they're saying, we don't want to give these awards to this person anymore. We want them all back. And you're going like, in the meantime, could we just make a good movie?
Yep. And
Could we just make something everybody wants to see?
Yeah.
Why are we wrapped up in these political agendas? And like, it's like, let's just make a good movie that actually says something. And that's the problem with a lot of these executives. So I find everybody else in the business, that's not an executive beneath. And I'm also including agents in this, because agents don't know anything. I mean, I have some good ones, but I mean, for the most part, they don't, know. If they're not brokering films and people, they'd be brokering, grain for cows. I mean, it doesn't matter for them. So an artist typically watches this movie and they love it. I mean, they're just like, this should be nominated for an Oscar. This should play at Sundance or the Cannes Film Festival.
When did it change that Hollywood made movies for everybody?
Well, the 90s was the golden era.
That was last, right?
Yeah, that was the golden era. Back when they just made and this was our goal, just to make a movie just told it like it is, for the sake of making good art, not having an agenda. Like, obviously there's some passion behind it and there's some issues that are raised, but what's been actually really encouraging for me, because the only way that I'm able to promote it is on Twitter. And I'm getting feedback from blue hair commie liberals and the most hardcore, like Molan Labe, right wing militia guys in the middle of Texas. They equally love the film. And the thing is that we vacillate sort of back and forth between things that would normally be championed by conservatives or championed by liberals. We talk about how messed up California bureaucracy is. So conservatives are like, yeah, I love that. And then we talk about the indigenous wisdom that's been betrayed and how we killed them all and stopped the traditions. Liberals love that. So the thing is like, we're kind of just shooting it down the middle.
Yeah.
But the problem is, like Phil said, there's a disconnect at the upper levels from what's on the ground. You see that dynamic with a lot of films where, on Rotten Tomatoes, the critics will pan it, but it'll be like 98% amongst the public. Cult following. They're totally disconnected. And this is the thing that we run into is when we deal with the gatekeepers, they'll get triggered by a line in the film or the subject matter in a way that normal people, they don't even blink at. Yeah. And the thing is, if you have those gatekeepers, then it's never gonna make it through. Look, we released this independently. It is the #1 rated firefighter film of all time, of any kind. It's even rated higher than Backdraft. So think about what kind of mindset would compel a company like Netflix to tell us to kick rocks when you could have a profitable film that people universally like on both sides of the spectrum, but you're saying, no, we don't want that message out there. How do you deal with that? That's the big question.
Well, we are developing this unscripted series right now that we plan on taking out. So hopefully we can get it out with like an HBO or an Apple or Amazon Studios or something like that. We sort of want to replicate the doc and do like a doc series that follows like 4 or 5 Hotshots. So we're trying. We'll see. But I just feel like the biggest problem is whether you agree with film, a piece of art hanging on a wall, a piece of music, when you remove really great pieces of art, you remove the ability to have the conversation. If you can put difficult subject matter, let's just take film, for example, up on the screen, and you go to a movie theater or you sit around your TV and you might have people who've got 4 or 5 different kinds of points of view. The film allows everyone to have a very sensible, educational conversation after the fact. Or like stand-up comedy, you go see Dave Chappelle. He's going to push a lot of buttons, and there's probably a lot of different people in the audience with different viewpoints, but guaranteed after the show, they got common ground now to be able to talk about stuff. And that's what great art should do. And we don't have, I don't think we really have that much anymore.
Who's great at that? Mel Brooks.
Yeah. Absolutely. He's one of the greatest of all time.
Freaking greatest. That sucker could throw one down, and it doesn't matter where you were from. You got the humor of it.
Yep.
Because it wasn't being mean.
No, it's satire, and it's
satire.
good.
He made fun of himself.
Healthy.
Yeah, he made fun of himself.
Yeah. That's when the comedians start going mean. It's really hard for them to pull back after that.
Yeah.
And that's we need them here.
Mm-hmm.
You got to have those people because they can see things in everybody else we can't see, and they just talk about normal. You can talk about going to the restroom and point it out. It's like hilarious.
Yeah.
And when they stop doing that because for whatever reason, I guess 'cause society, we ebb and flow in this country.
Right,
There's a time for everything, and it's we're going through some transitions right now.
Yep.
I do laugh out loud every time I hear Theo Von say anything.
That dude's amazing. He's amazing. Doesn't it feel like we're sort of coming out of those dark ages where it feels like people are starting to feel more comfortable saying what they mean, and it's okay. Yeah. And it doesn't have to bury you for the rest of your life. And, to Phil's point about this is supposed to be a conversation starter. And the thing about our film is like we wanted it to be a bit of an empty vessel where we're not telling you what to think, right? We're presenting the information and asking the question. This was Phil's greatest contribution on the story side when we were trying to figure out how do we start this picture. And he's like, start it with a question.
Yeah.
And that was the best advice. And that set off the chain reaction for the rest of the story to flow. We started the film with a question. And I think doing that gives people the opportunity to engage with the art in the appropriate way, which is they answer the question. And so it gives people from these different perspectives the ability to try to understand it and digest it in their own way rather than have it hammered into their heads. Like, this is what you must like.
It's like what guy? Yeah, it's like what guy who works at a factory all day comes home, he's eating his Hungry Man dinner in front of the TV, and he's flipping through stuff, and and he doesn't want to watch something that's sitting there telling him he's a racist. He's like, he's like, I just want to watch something entertaining. My hands hurt, I'm aching all over. I work 12 hours. I just want to watch something entertaining. They don't want to watch these agenda-driven pieces of crap.
Yeah.
Which is what they are.
And the other elements of this is we really tried, the film's called Hotshot. We tried to capture the perspective from the hotshots. We shot a bunch of interviews. Some of them were under the condition where the fellas were like, I'll sit down on camera as long as you promise not to put it in the movie. So it was mostly just for my own reference and my own research. Some of their lines ended up making it in the film, in the voiceover, and there's some of the best lines.
That's how you show respect.
100%.
Honor their wishes with not showing them.
Right.
You put somebody in there to do that.
Right.
But then you capture them.
Yeah.
And that will tell us.
And the overarching thing is just the mindset, the way things are presented. I tried to do it the way that they do it. Like when we're just shooting the shit, having a barbecue, the way they talk about things. And when it comes to climate, look, there's plenty of hippie liberal firefighters, and plenty of them, they believe in climate change. They just know that it doesn't matter for fire. So they have this attitude of like, it is what it is. And I imagine it's probably similar in the military where it's like, dude, orders are orders. We're just doing what we're supposed to do. We're
that sign, it is what it is. We have it hanging on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
See, this is the commonality with operators, with people who are actually there and they're actually experiencing it. They're engaging. They have that similar mindset of, look, man, all this other stuff, all of the adversarial debate is just noise and has nothing to do with the real thing.
And we have a couple of phrases in our community about that. It is what it is. And then you could be going at it with a team guy or someone will point something out. And if you say teams and shit, everything shuts down. Everyone knows exactly. It's like a bring back to zero kind of deal. Like, that means it's out of our control and did everything we could. And no matter who you are or what you're doing, you can get stuck into some positions that it is what it is, right?
There's a few maxims in Wildland Fire that I picked up that I've absorbed as like great life lessons. One of them is radio discipline. So over the radio, you got to be efficient. You don't curse. You stay calm. You keep your problems small and private. The other one is you fight the fire that you have, not the one that you wish you had. And that is a recognition that there is a force that's way bigger than you, that's in control. And you can try to wish for the perfect conditions like, I wish we had more time to get this ridge prepped. Well, you don't. So figure it out. And that's where our approach to the climate debate comes in, is like, dude, it is what it is. This is what we've got right now. You ain't changing it tomorrow. The only way to make an impact tomorrow is by getting rid of the fuels. And so that's the approach. It's not an activist approach. It's really just trying to reflect the way the operators see all this stuff.
Well, they see the fighter in front of them as opposed to the one that's coming up after.
Exactly.
As you're worrying about that other dude, That's where it runs into problems. And out there, you got to go off your own wits. I mean, you can't even imagine what it's probably like to be in them guys' shoes.
Oh, I can imagine it.
Not you. I'm talking about in general. Like, I can't.
Yeah.
It's not wasn't my chosen profession.
Yeah. But that's
we tried. One of the things with the film is right, Gabe. I think you're about to say it. It's like that's what we wanted to do with the film. We wanted you to walk away from that and go, oh my God, we wanted to make a film that was palpable. That you went and walked in their shoes. I think we accomplished that with it, because people walk away from it and they're pretty affected by it, and they take it very personal.
I had, when we were screening it in Utah, I had a grizzled old hotshot. I didn't know him from Adam. Never met him in my life. He's from a different region, but he was probably 40-something years old, beard down to here. He looked like Forrest Gump when he decided to stop running. Yeah. In tears. And we tried to tap into something. Our motto when we were making this film was show, don't tell. So rather than having people describe what it's like to face 1,000-foot fire tornado or fire burning over your vehicle on both sides, let's go out and show it. That's why it took us so long to film this thing, because the amount of times you got to go out there to capture those moments, it's like any other kind of nature photography. Anyone from National Geographic will tell you the one time they got that lion kill, they were out there for 6 weeks just to get one kill. It was the same thing for this. So we took that time because I wanted to show people what this is like and have them feel it. And the other component of this is the sound. So all the fellas who I knew who were ever involved in a burnover where they had to deploy their fire shelter and get under, they didn't describe the heat. They didn't describe anything except the sound.
Freaking noise.
And it's the noise. And it sounds different than what you would expect. And it sounds different than what Hollywood sound designers ever put in. There's this creepy sound to a wildfire. It sounds more like an ocean than a bonfire. And then there's this high-pitched whine that comes with it that until you've been in a burnover, and I've been through a couple, once you hear it, it haunts you for the rest of your life.
That's like they're talking to you.
Oh, dude, it's like the souls of 1,000 leaves, like screaming as they exploded. It's hard to describe, but I think that's one of the things that kind of shook some of the fellas who saw the film. And all the hotshots who've seen it, they're like, dude, this is the most accurate thing that's ever been done, because we tried to get every little detail. And I think you only get that by taking all the time that we did, like 6 years. Because if you're a normal carpetbagger kind of documentary crew, you might come in for a few months, do it, and then you sit down in the editing booth for a year. You're not really going to absorb some of the nuance and the heartbreak and the way that it breaks your body down, and that fatalistic mindset that these dudes have, where they have surrendered their bodies to this cause. They know they're going to die young. They know it. And they're going to die in ways that they shouldn't.
To the job, which is ultimately to our people.
Yeah.
That's what they signed up for, and there's honor in that. And once you know that's what you're doing, that's what we talked about. It's like, you don't fear anything. Nothing. And if you could incorporate smell in there, that'd be a game over.
That'll be the next level of screening this thing.
That earlier, like the sounds and all that, when that gets to you, and the heat, the minute that smell hits you is when... something. Yeah, the smell of like 200-year-old cedars burning up. It's unforgettable. There were a few times where I just stopped filming. I just sat there and took it in, because look, filming this was kind of a religious conversion for me in a lot of ways. It gave me a glimpse of God's power, and it truly brought me to God in a way that nothing in my life ever has. I'd spent my whole life being that typical California atheist dork. There is something when you get a glimpse of your own mortality and you see something as powerful as extreme fire behavior. It's the most powerful force in the universe.
Yep.
It changes you. And I genuinely believe that something was looking out for me and kept me alive, because we had some close calls that
we sure did. Yeah.
Someone like you will understand, where it feels like something else is dipping his hand into this.
Oh,
and,
when that happens?
Yeah. Like putting your rifle right next to you half a dozen times. It's like, it's hard to describe. And
first couple, you're like, oh, but then there's one. It's like, okay,
yeah.
Roger that. And then whatever created that, they can destroy me. Then that's when that humbleness comes in.
Yes, that is ultimately people. I think, have this perception, if you have a brush with death, that it makes you fearless. But what it really is it makes you humble. Yep. And that was the profound thing for me. I would always look at these hotshots in awe. I'm like, man, these guys are so tough, dude. They're not scared of anything. The reality is they've just accepted this force that's bigger than them. Yeah. And once you have that moment of humbling, it brings you peace.
It's hard for a human.
Dude, it's impossible.
If you're brought up a certain way, it's hard for a human to accept that we may be in the image of God, but there's some stuff down here to whoop your ass.
Yeah.
Yep.
So for our listeners, when they watch the movie, what do you want them to come out? What's the ultimate goal?
Well, that's ultimately up to them. Like I'm more curious to hear from our audience what they thought the film was about, rather than me telling it.
That's a good filmmaker.
I worked with a really great filmmaker, Alexander Payne, on a movie called Sideways, and
the wine.
Yeah, the wine movie. Dude, I
love that movie.
It was a great film, dude. That was my
awesome. That's Paul Giamatti.
Yeah, Paul Giamatti and Thomas Hayden Church.
Yeah.
Great movie.
Funny. That's that drive, man. That was good. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I love that. But I remember Alexander Payne. I had a few chances to talk to him, and I think he was quoting Kurosawa when he said it. But I asked him about Schmidt, another movie he made. I asked him what was it about?
Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
And
he's like, if I could put it into words, I wouldn't have had to make a movie about it.
Yeah. That's not your job, right?
That stuck with me, and I realized this is what art is for. It is for explaining and getting people to feel the things that you cannot adequately convey with words. So as far as what I want the audience to come away with, I want them to tell me what they come away with. Ultimately, just because I'm so emotionally connected to these firefighters and the topic, I hope they come away thinking like, hey, we got to take care of these guys. And they'll call their congressman and say like, hey, man, we got to start paying them better. We got to start clearing our brush. That's sort of my real world aspiration. But in terms of the lesson, that's up to you. And we really did try to leave the film to give people the opportunity to make it what they want.
Not to skirt the question, by the way. I think I would say Gabe's correct, and also the film's probably about like the fragility of life, because the other storyline we have running parallel is, of course, Gabe's relationship with Justine, and as we watch fire season and all the havoc that fire causes and the death, there's a rebirth, and that relationship also dies, but there is also a rebirth after that as well. So I think that's probably what we hope that the audience walks away with at a minimum, and then like Gabe said, the rest, it's always interesting to hear what people have to say about the film, because sometimes I hear people talk about it and I go, oh wow, I never even thought of that before.
Do you have a place where people can go other than your own social medias, where they can go and like a forum about the film?
Well, at this point, it's my account on Twitter. That's where most of the discussions are. And I post a lot about fires, and people have found it useful because I've managed to predict a lot of the fire behavior that we've seen over the last couple of years, not because I'm special, but just because when it comes to fire, past is prologue. And these things follow the same exact patterns over and over. And if you learn your fire history, you know exactly what to expect. And it follows like black and white. And so that's where the primary discussion is, hotshot_movie on Twitter. But we also have people reach out to me through email and on our website, hotshotmovie.com. And I've met some very, very interesting characters, and, old wildland firefighters, and, even liberal activists, conservative activists who want to get engaged because they see this and they think like, man, these guys are special and they have a very special job. And there's this force of nature that's so powerful. And to Phil's point about there's regrowth after the death of something, and the regrowth is usually stronger. Like, I'm married and I'm starting a family out in Nashville, and life is good. And that's the thing you understand when you watch a fire burn through. Yeah, we weep over the loss of all this stuff, but that regrowth comes in real fast. Right now, there's green shoots coming out in the Palisades right now. It's just a month later, and within the next 6 weeks, it's going to be completely covered in wildflowers, all these pollinators.
Yeah.
So
that does happen.
Yeah, you got to look at the other side of it, and that rebirth it's typically
harder for humans when we lose our stuff.
Yeah,
the foliage doesn't have a problem.
All right,
they'll just does its thing, right?
Yeah.
Well, because that's what nature does. It clears everything out to grow again, and it's nuts that a lot of these environmentalists think, oh, we just need to let it be. Let the little animals get in there. The animals are going to leave when you start the burn, and they're going to come back. And you saw it with the fire in the neighborhoods.
Yep.
They go back and their dog survived. How did this bear survive in someone's basement or whatever? You're like, you see it happen. That is nature. They're going to find a way to get out. They're going to find a way to survive. You just have to clear it out in order to keep these homes.
I've observed animals have very good instincts on wildfires. And look, not all of them make it, but it's part of life. And most death in nature is pretty violent. And that's the thing. If we leave it to the natural cycle, you get very violent wildfires. So we have 3 distinct eras of wildfire and forest management. The pre-human era, 12,000 years ago, where there was only one source of ignition. That was lightning. So fires were really rare, which meant there was a lot of fuel buildup in between fires. And so the fires were nuclear. Then you have the Native Americans managing the forests. And they were putting fire on the ground every single year. And so there was a lot more frequent fires. And so the fires got smaller and smaller and smaller. That's why you got those giant sequoias growing in California, because the fires got smaller. Wow. But now, because we got so good at putting these fires out, we're manipulating that natural system rather than exploiting it to everybody's benefit. We're now going back to that pre-human era of 100 years in between fires. And so they get nuclear, which is what we're seeing. So observing this stuff, it just takes awareness and like being present in your own space. And I think that's the one thing that the natives did very well. They were pretty alacritous with putting fire in the ground and reckless too. But the thing is, they set themselves up where they could start burning the hillside. They didn't have to worry about where it went because they didn't put their homes in the middle of it like we do. So now,
there's a bit of a narcissism in somebody who goes, well, my house cost, $15 million and I have these huge walls and gates around it and I'm just going to build it where I want to.
Yeah.
And there is some narcissism in that. And we have to, just to circle back, Marcus, you were kind of bringing it up. It's like, you got to have a relationship with the land. I don't care how much money you spend on your house.
Respect. You got to have some respect.
Yeah. I mean, we and again, and that comes down to education. A lot of people just don't know. I mean, on these last wildfires, I'd say, well, what would you do if an earthquake came? And everyone will tell you exactly what you should do. They've got their kits. But if you ask someone, what do you do when a wildfire hits? They have no clue. And a lot of people are going, well, the police will come knock on my door and tell me to leave. It's like, brother, by the time, if the cops are knocking on your door, you're effed.
Yeah.
You're screwed, and, but people, they just don't know. Sadly, people are, starting to pay attention because this was so devastating.
Yeah, and you saw a lot of people abandoning their cars in the Palisades and blocking ingress for the firefighters. A buddy of mine who's the dozer operator was pushing Mercedes out of the way because
he's having a blast with that.
Dude, he loved it.
But, that's like a theme park ride. Are you kidding me?
You'll notice if you watch the video, he's avoiding certain cars. He was avoiding the electric vehicles because when those things get punctured and damaged, they burn for like 2 days straight. You can't put it out. So that's a little detail to think about. And ironically, these are the things that are going to, we buy enough Teslas, the weather's going to stop being angry and the fires are going to stop, right? These things are an absolute nightmare. And they're part of the reason why the cleanup in the Palisades is taking so long. So many people have these lithium batteries. And those things are extremely hazardous. This is what shut down Lahaina for a year. They had to get rid of, so many people had power walls and Teslas all around. These things are a serious hazard. So we're losing all of them anyway. We have to be thinking like rationally about some of this stuff, and it's frustrating.
I get it. It does this part's good. It does do this. But what happens if when the catches don't fight? People don't know that because you don't talk about it.
Right.
But when lithium catches, it's almost, as you say, can't put it out.
You can't.
It's like our own incinerator. If you want to get rid of all the garbage, man, plant some Teslas down there. I have to throw the garbage on top
no
of
kidding.
it. Incinerate the whole damn thing.
Yeah, you have to, until that stored energy goes away, it doesn't stop. So it's just going to keep burning. That thermal runaway. So firefighters they'll have to just babysit it for 24 hours and just try to prevent it from spreading to other stuff. They can't stop it. So look, people need a better education about wildfire if you live out west. Texas fire season is coming up right about now. So Texas fire season is 2 phases. It's the end of February and through March, and then again later in the summer going into fall, like the Bastrop fires back in I think it's 2011.
Well, they were falling on top of us.
It came really close to us.
Yeah, for sure. So you watch, it'll switch. I hope it doesn't swing around so hard where you're not even allowed to have an electric vehicle up in the forests.
Well, what's funny is that Joe Biden mandated that the U.S. Forest Service completely switch their entire vehicle fleet to electric vehicles, despite the fact that every wildland firefighter is saying, look, first off, we don't have chargers in the middle of the forest. So you're going to have to drag in diesel generators to charge these things. And secondly, just the hazards of having these things around fire is just devastating, man.
Putting gasoline next to a fire.
Yeah. Oh, dude, gasoline would be preferable. Because that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's like every vehicle fire that I went to, these guys have it out within 30 seconds. So it's a traditional vehicle. So we need to have sensible policy that isn't guided by activism. And ultimately, speaking of what we hope comes out of this film, is just a rational, balanced, and informed approach to wildfire management, because it is the biggest threat to this country. We just saw 5,000 homes get wiped out and 24 people get killed like that. And frankly, all it takes is a couple of bad actors with a few road flares on a windy day. It's all over. It's the easiest way to level an entire city.
They caught people doing that, right?
Yeah. The thing is, man, the arson narrative gets out of control. But this last fire season in California, more than half of the acres that burned were all arson.
Yeah, arson.
Which is, it is a very serious problem in California.
That should be a serious crime. Just go away for that.
Like death.
Yeah, you don't want to know what I think about arsonists.
That's crazy.
Get you kicked off of YouTube.
Hey, you guys are in charge of the environment. When someone screws it up, send them to us. I won't get in your business. Don't get in mine when I go to take care of this problem, all right?
I approve.
And then there'll be a balance here.
Yeah.
So, right? Obviously, we're put here. We're here with them. We have some purpose.
Right.
Yep.
But again, the best defense is just don't give them anything to burn.
Right.
If we get rid of the fuels, there ain't no fire. So we got to get very, very, very proactive. California is so far behind. People really don't understand this. And there's a line in our film where the last screening I did, people audibly gasped, where we talk about how Florida proactively burns more in 1 year than California has burned in the last 50 years. And they think there's no way that's true. California last year, I think they did 36,000 acres of prescribed fire. Florida does 2 million every year. And the thing is, California's got way more to do. They got to do between 4 to 11 million acres. They're only doing 36,000. So it's not even close to what needs to get done. And guess which state has a wildfire problem?
And Florida's thriving.
Thriving.
Yep.
Yeah. Except for the hurricanes.
Well, we deal with those. That's kind of somebody left the water on.
We're used to that.
Yeah.
So how can our listeners watch the film?
It's on Amazon, it's on Apple, it's on Vudu and Google Play, and it's also streamable on our website, hotshotmovie.com. So if you don't feel like giving Jeff Bezos his pound of flesh and you want to support us directly, you can go to hotshotmovie.com.
Okay. And in order for our listeners to follow both of y'all, can you both give your social media handles?
I'm hotshot_movie on Twitter, and Team Sickfooty, that's TEAMSIQFUTI on Instagram.
Hold on. How about you, Phil?
Phil Donlon and the number one on Twitter, but my Twitter account kind of sucks, so don't really follow me there. It's not a big, but Instagram is Phil dot Donlon DONLON. So that's Instagram.
Okay. Awesome.
And Chicago Fire.
Chicago Fire. I go back. Go back tonight to film some more of season 13.
Nice.
If you make it over 10, that's a big deal.
Yeah, you can't stop Dick Wolf.
Yeah.
I will say.
How about that guy? We've never met, but kind of a fan. He puts some good stuff out there.
Yeah.
He does. That's kind of like what we were just talking about. It's like he's he's one of the last guys that's still making stuff that, you know, people want to watch. You know, it's like, you know, this, you know, it's entertaining. It's, you know, it's soap opera. It's all that stuff, you know, like Blue Bloods, you know, shows like that.
Great
you know?
show, man. He definitely captures our spirits.
Yeah.
He's like a John
1000%.
Hughes kind of guy. You know what I mean? Like he can just see into a neighborhood and be like, hey, man, this is what this is.
I love it. All right. Well, our listeners need to watch Chicago Fire and Hotshot.
That's right.
Yes.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for doing this.
Exactly.
It
Yeah,
was a real
thank
pleasure.
you. Are y'all okay with
Thank
us
you.
in the YouTube adding in like a clip of the movie?
Yeah, you can use whatever you want.
Okay.
With the intro of the doc, just put that through there before we...
Yeah, that's the beauty of us distributing it ourselves is we own the rights to everything. So
Yeah.
you can
Okay.
put whatever you want.
Yep.
We'll show it through our venue then.
Yeah, awesome. We'll add it into this.
You could just
podcast.
play the movie behind the whole podcast. if
Let's
you
play
want.
the whole damn movie.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Well, thank y'all.
That'll be the third podcast. We'll just play the movie first.
Yeah, go for it.
There you go.
You know what would be hilarious is like a Mystery Science 3000 where it's like just the silhouettes of the three of you guys watching it and talking smack while you watch it.
Oh, yeah. Like Mr. Simmons, yeah.
We'll take it down to the movie theater and do that.
Yeah.
That'd be hilarious.
Well, thank y'all so
Right on, bro.
much.
Yep. God bless you, man. Good luck.
Thank you. Hey, thank you guys so much. I really, really appreciate you having us on. It
man.
means a lot. So, you know, it's
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.